Great. Well, welcome everyone. We're so thrilled that you've joined us. For those of you who've just joined, if you could go ahead and enter your name and where you're joining us from in the chat, that would be excellent. We're thrilled that you have taken an hour today during your lunch hour on a Friday to join us for our first financial check-in with FAME of 2021. We're really excited about this webinar series, and I'll talk a little bit later about what we'll be offering throughout the year. But today's topic is all focused on how an employee financial wellness program can benefit your organization. So we're really excited that you're here. Again, we are in a webinar format, so I can't see you, I can't hear you. So as we move through the presentation, I strongly encourage you to enter questions in the chat. You can go ahead and eat your lunch and use that lunch hour to obviously do that, because again, we can't see or hear you. My name is Mary Dyer, and I'm a financial education officer at the Finance Authority of Maine. And I also serve as volunteer president of the Maine Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Financial Literacy. And I also lead the financial wellness program at FAME. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic and also share what we're doing at FAME as well. And we'll talk about that later in the presentation. Also with me, serving as our moderator today, is FAME's Director of Education, Martha Johnston, and she's going to be monitoring the chat. I am not a great multitasker in Zoom and webinar, so I'm going to be checking in with her to make sure that I cover any questions that you may have or any comments. I'm thrilled to see that there's a few familiar names in the participant list today. So that is absolutely wonderful. Again, use that chat feature. That will be the best way to ask any questions that you might have. And again, for those of you who've joined by phone, we will get you the slides later on. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Just real quickly, for those of you who aren't familiar with FAME or know a whole lot about who we are, what we do, this is just a quick snapshot of kind of who we are. And really, the main focus in the area that I work at in FAME, the education division, we're very focused on supporting Maine families in saving, planning, and paying for college and pursuing their higher education goals. And of course, financial wellness is a significant part of that. So we did want to lead with that for you. To give you a sense of our size, and I think this is really important as I start to talk with you about our financial wellness program, we have approximately 57 full-time employees. So just to give you a sense of our size, we are primarily, many of us, remote right now. We do have staff in the FAME office, but like many of you, we have been remote for nearly a year. And so what we've done prior COVID in terms of financial wellness is a little bit different now in the current environment. And we'll talk about, some strategies that we've used to engage employees virtually and to keep them, engaged in terms of the resources that we offer. So in terms of our objectives today, one of the first things I want to do is just kind of talk a little bit about what your employees think of when they think about financial wellness. What does that really mean to them? We'll also talk about the overall causes and source of stress for your employees, specifically their financial stress, and what are the things that really stress them out and cause them a lot of stress in the workplace. We'll also talk about how employee financial wellness impacts your organization and your bottom line, which I think as you're advocating for these programs, that's a really important aspect. We'll talk about the general benefits of offering employee financial wellness and how that benefits you and your employees. And then what I want to do more, that I think is really critical is provide you with key strategies, some of the best practices for developing a program, and give you a little bit of background regarding FAME's program and how we've approached employee financial wellness. And we're relatively new in this space, but I think we've learned a lot in the last 3 years since we developed our program. And then last but not least, and very important, we want to leave you with all of the information about the free resources and support that we will be offering. Again, I'm really excited that you're with us today. I think that In this current climate, there is no time like the present to explore employee financial wellness. A lot of employees are feeling a much more significant level of stress as a result of the economic impact of COVID and just general stress and health and well-being in general. And so I think that these programs, while they're very focused on financial wellness, I think that they can really help to improve your culture around employee engagement and support and really foster that positive environments for your employees. And so I think no time like the present in terms of employee financial wellness. So let's talk about what is financial wellness. If you live and work in this space like I do, you will know that there are so many definitions for financial wellness. There's so many ways that we describe it: financial literacy, financial capability, financial well-being, financial stability. I mean, there's a lot of terminology and a lot of ways that we define it. And so I think what I thought would be useful was to give you some definitions from consumers and from employers. One of the sources that we use quite frequently at FAME is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. They've developed a wonderful series of financial wellness tools and resources for both adults and youth. And they did a study of consumers to help them to sort of define what financial wellness means to them. And so this is how they defined it. They defined it as a state of being where you have control over your day-to-day and month-to-month finances. So again, that whole notion of you're not living paycheck to paycheck. They also identified as having the capacity to absorb a financial shock or a financial emergency. Being on track with meeting financial goals, that was a key component. And then the last bullet, which I think this one really resonates with me, and I think when people ask me, what is financial wellness or financial literacy or all of those various terms we insert there, what does it mean to you? And I think this last point is critical. It's having the financial freedom to make the choices that will allow you to enjoy life. And I think that that's a very personal thing. Financial freedom for me could mean something very different to someone else. It isn't necessarily about being wealthy or having lots of money. It might mean, backpacking across Europe with very little money, or, living on a shoestring. It might mean retiring early. So it's really all about financial freedom. And I think we get really bogged down in the sort of the dollars and cents of financial wellness, but it's really about personal freedom and choice. I know in working with your employees and working with your sort of the audiences that you work with, you've probably encountered both professionally and in your personal life, people who are really limited in their choices because of finances, whether it's the ability to get out of a job they don't like, or a relationship that they're unhappy with, or to be able to do the things that they really want to do in life. Finances are the primary determinant of that freedom of choice. And so I think that bullet really sticks with me in terms of how we define it. Now, another source that we look to a lot at FAME in our employee financial wellness are the studies that have been done by PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They've done a ton of research and have provided a lot of great resources around employee financial wellness. And they did a study and a survey of employees to help define financial wellness. And the employees defined it as being stress-free and achieving financial stability. And so that's really how they defined it. And you'll see sort of the percentage breakdown of what does financial wellness mean to you. And that highest percentage was not being stressed about finances. I don't want to have to worry about it. Being debt-free was critical. Not having to worry about unexpected expenses. And again, 16%, that financial freedom, the ability to make the choices to enjoy life. And so that's how employees in that study defined it. And this was a study that was done after COVID, certainly in the midst of the pandemic. And so I think that's really relevant information as well. So let's talk about employee stress. What are employees stressed about? And one thing I want to mention, when we developed our employee financial wellness program at FAME, we looked to a lot of national research. The PwC study was one that we used very frequently, but then we conducted our own research. And I will tell you, among the 57 employees that we surveyed, the results were exactly the same. And so regardless of where they're at in their career at Fame, whether they're an hourly employee, a salary employee, you know, in their 30s or nearing retirement, the results were virtually the same in terms of what causes them stress and what are they really needing in terms of financial information. And so you'll see financial challenges and money matters are the most significant cause of stress. If you look at all of the other causes of stress combined, it doesn't total that financial stress. That really is the number one cause of stress for your employees. Obviously, right now, with the economic impact of COVID, you know, their ability, you know, their job in terms of, you know, retaining their income and job security, that's a major concern right now. Relationships are a concern, health concerns, obviously, right now. But over and above all of those other concerns, financial challenges are still the number one. What we found is that, and I'm going to go to the next slide here because I want to break down the financial stress specifically. So that's sort of the overall, but let's take a look at their, you know, what are the financial things that are stressing them in their life? The primary, hands down, and again, this was regardless of the individual, their age, their gender, their income level, insufficient emergency savings was a major financial stressor. The inability to meet monthly expenses, that living paycheck to paycheck, that was a major concern. Employees also, both in the PwC study and in our research that we've done with our own employees, credit card debt and reliance on credit cards to meet basic expenses. Use of credit cards to cover the cost of emergency expenses was noted frequently in our research. Not being able to retire. You know, when will I be able to retire? What are the healthcare costs associated that, you know, that I will have to cover in retirement? And then, of course, now more than ever, losing their job, a reduction in household income, all of those things were cited as major concerns in terms of finances. Other things that we identified in our research is, and not only through our research, but through our personal coaching sessions, our employees, and I would imagine that your employees are very similar, they expressed concerns around support that they're providing to aging parents, helping aging parents manage their finances. Also, concerns were expressed around providing financial support for adult children. That was another concern. And I think now, as a result of the pandemic, many families are experiencing that more than ever. Young adults and certainly college students, but adults of all ages are having to move home and live in multi-generational households to deal with the fact that they've lost their job. And so that's a major stress for families. And then another stress that we identified was a lack of updated or sufficient will and estate planning. And so that's something that we've zeroed in on for 2021. That was a major gap and stress among Fame employees. And again, I would imagine that that's a universal theme, regardless of what, you know, your workplace. So this next slide is one of my favorites. Again, this is from the PwC. This was a special report that they did in 2017, but it was all about financial stress, employee financial stress, and the bottom line. How does it impact you as an employer? And so you'll see in the chart on the left-hand side, of those who've reported that they are stressed about their finances, 48% of those that are stressed reported that they find that stress to be a distraction at work. So almost 50% of those who are stressed, and we know the majority are stressed, are finding that to be a distraction at work. And then if you dig down a little bit deeper and you look at how much time are they spending being distracted or dealing with financial issues while at work. And so 50% of those reported that they were spending 3 hours or more each week dealing with personal financial issues. 20%, even beyond that 3 hours, 20% were spending 5 hours or more dealing with personal issues. 31% indicated that their productivity had been impacted, and 16% have missed work occasionally. Now, one thing I want to remind you in this study is this is self-reported, and we collected this data from our own employees as well, and we found the same results. I think the caution here is that when self-reporting is the source of the information, how truthful are employees being about distractedness at work? You know, if your employer is, you know, studying and surveying, how truthful are you being? Is this a true, accurate picture of the distractedness and the number of hours? So I would anticipate that it's a pretty conservative number, and I think that's important to mention. In terms of health and relationships, 35% of those who are stressed indicated that their health had been impacted. And we know that financial stress impacts virtually every aspect of our lives. It's not just our wallet. It impacts our health, our relationships, virtually every aspect. They also indicated that their relationships at home have been impacted by their financial worries. So then the chart on the right-hand side does a calculation for an employer that has 10,000 employees. And I retooled this to do the math for Fame because we only have 57 or 58 employees. I think I did the calculation on 58. And the ultimate cost per year for Fame for that, again, conservative estimate of distractedness ended up being $20,000 a year. So you could easily do the math for your employment, your place of employment for this, determine, the number of employees. You take a look at the percentage who are distracted at work, how many hours that equals, and, the total number of employees. And you can do the math here for a workforce of 10,000 employees. And if you look at just these conservative numbers, that's $3.3 million of lost productivity each year. And so that's significant. And so again, do the math for your own workplace. It's easy to then see the benefit in terms of productivity and lost hours because of financial stress. Again, I'm not going to go through all the details on the chart because I want to get into the resources and best practices, but I encourage you to do the math for your own workplace. This was very compelling when Martha and I and the team presented to Fame leadership to make the case to invest in employee financial wellness, to demonstrate to them what a lack of employee financial wellness cost Fame each year. And so I think that's a great thing to sort of demonstrate if you're trying to make the case. So what are some of the benefits? I've already touched on some of those things in terms of the productivity and distractedness, but here are some of the other things that you will find. Certainly, as I mentioned in the previous slide, increased productivity, reduce stress. Also, employees find that their health improves. They are using fewer sick days. We know that employees who participate in employee financial wellness programs have a higher job satisfaction and an overall engagement. We know that it increases their knowledge of available benefits. And just to give you a little sort of anecdotal study, we did an impromptu study the year as we were looking at exploring and developing a program. I did an impromptu poll of Fame employees. This was when we were in person pre-COVID, and I just walked around the office and polled employees and asked them, can anybody tell me the percentage of money that Fame contributes to your retirement each year? What percentage of your income? And there weren't that many employees that could very quickly tell me that percentage. So that was a powerful, and again, it was anecdotal, it was just an impromptu poll, but I think it was powerful in that Fame has very rich benefits, and yet our employees didn't necessarily have the ability to call those out or recall those very easily. And so I think our program has really elevated the knowledge of and awareness of available programs and benefits. The other thing that and this not necessarily from Fame's research, but the PwC research certainly noted that employers who offer employee financial wellness programs, inherently, their employees have higher satisfaction with their salary and benefit programs. And that's even without increased salary and benefits. So there is, as you're focusing more on your financial wellness and you're strengthening your financial planning and goals, you're feeling more empowered about your finances and less stress. And so in turn, you're feeling like your salary and benefits are more competitive, and you're feeling more satisfied about that. So it's an interesting connection between job satisfaction and those programs. The other thing that I believe strongly that it does is that if you have satisfied, happy employees, you are going to do a better job at recruiting new employees. So often, talent is recruited because of word of mouth from your own employees. And so if your employees are satisfied, they're engaged, they're happy to be there, they're more likely to recruit other people to work at your organization. And so I think that's a powerful, powerful outcome as well. And then for us, I think this was really important. And this was really something that I noticed at FAME as we developed our program. And that is a benefit in terms of the change in your workplace culture and values around financial wellness and an honesty around financial matters. Obviously, money, as you know, especially those of you that are working on this topic on a regular basis, there's a lot of shame around and shame around finances, and people aren't always willing to talk about it and talk about the strategies that they're using, and there's a reluctance to sort of be honest about the things that they're concerned about and their stress. And I think that financial wellness programs really help to change the overall culture around sort of our attitudes. And as an agency that is focused on our mission around financial wellness, and we're educating students and families across the state, it's really important that our employees feel empowered with that knowledge and that information in their own lives. So I think that is a really key element as well. We sort of all feel as though we're in this together, trying to improve our financial situation incrementally over time collectively. So I'm going to pause here just for a moment and have Martha go ahead and unmute. Before I dive into strategies and best practices, I want to just check if there are any questions or comments so far.
No, we haven't received any questions or comments yet.
All right. Well, please don't hesitate. Please send along. We'll know you're there, and we'll know you're with us if you want to send a comment through or a question. So let's talk about strategies and best practices. Where to begin? Certainly this, if you don't have a financial wellness program, it may seem really daunting and expensive, and sort of where do you begin? And I would say the first thing that you should do, rather than creating a brand new program, at first, perhaps you could just focus on increasing the awareness of existing benefit programs. So one of the things that I did early on in working with our HR department was to really understand, what do our employees already have access to? So for example, our employee assistance program already offered a virtual or over the phone financial coaching. There were already some existing tools and information that we felt that we could package to provide to employees to raise their level of awareness. And so that is really the first thing. And I know those of you who are in HR, I don't work specifically in HR, and so I have a great appreciation for all of the things that you're juggling and trying to, raise awareness around. I mean, there are a multitude of benefits and benefit packages that you're all trying to, educate your employees around. I call them students. It's a habit. But I know that you're spending a lot of time trying to raise awareness around existing benefit programs. And so this is just one of many things that you're perhaps offering. But I think that's a really great place to start. Do your employees truly understand their existing benefits? So often when you start working at an organization, you get that onboarding and you get that, in-depth overview of benefits. And then you might get an annual review each year of your health benefit changes and different benefit changes. But sometimes there's, a lack of awareness in terms of what is available. And so perhaps you start there. I think the most important step, if you are going to develop a program, is to really make sure that you understand employee needs. And that was in all of the best practices that we looked at nationally from PwC and others, the CFPB. They strongly encouraged us to really understand what our employees needed. There are many unique challenges that employees face depending on their situation, and it really is important that you understand that. And so gathering feedback through surveys or focus groups to understand what the needs are for your employees, that is absolutely critical. And I'm more than happy. There's really nothing in this presentation that I wouldn't share. I'd be more than happy to share our survey that we conducted, the questions that we asked. We really wanted to understand their needs and then what they were specifically looking for in terms of content. If we were to do workshops, what were they looking for specifically? The other thing that would be beneficial as you begin to, develop a program is to consider forming a working group of employees, perhaps external to HR, to help you shape the program. And that really, I think, lends itself well in terms of the buy-in and engagement. The next bullet I think is critical as well, to identify a champion, someone who is an influencer or a trusted member of staff. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the HR department, but think of that employee that people sort of follow or see as an influencer or who look to, and perhaps that person would be a champion to help sort of engage and encourage employees to get involved. This next recommendation, I can't emphasize this enough. We love incentives, right? And so I think incentives and competitions and rewards are a really great way to engage employees. This is certainly a little more challenging in the virtual environment. We used to be able to do a lot more when we were in person, and I look forward to the time when we're back at FAME and we're able to gather together, whether it's if everybody does an online course, we have a pizza party on Friday, or maybe you get a jeans day, or, those rewards and incentives make a difference. It might be just a $10 Dunkin' Donuts card or some, small incentive or recognition, but that can really make a difference in terms of engagement. Now, another suggestion I have, and I alluded to this earlier, it can be overwhelming. Where do you begin? How do you get employees to participate and engage? How do you cover the costs? And I think a great recommendation is to start slow and build upon it incrementally. You don't have to do everything all at once. Perhaps at first you spend that first year really focusing on increasing awareness on available benefits. And then maybe the next year you offer a couple of workshops. I think that's that incremental approach rather than doing everything all at once, which may be challenging for you in your own capacity, but also for your employees. Certainly starting slow and building incrementally can be a great strategy. I also would encourage you, if there's one thing that you're going to focus on, and this really became a theme of our program, and that is to focus on the emergency savings. How can you support employees in increasing their emergency savings, that rainy day fund? That is absolutely a place to focus. As you know, there are so many topics around financial wellness. There are so many things that you can provide to your employees, whether it's budgeting, investing, retirement, planning for retirement, Social Security. I mean, the topics are endless and can sometimes be overwhelming. Where do you begin? And so I think if your program was to focus solely on that emergency savings component, that would be a huge accomplishment, because across the board, as I said earlier, regardless of income level, age, gender, any of those factors, that emergency savings piece is absolutely a huge gap. And then last but not least, seek outside assistance. And actually the next slide, I'm going to get into our program and then the resources that we provide. But I will tell you, we do not do what we do alone. There are an endless number of wonderful resources throughout the state, free resources and experts. I don't present all of our Money in the Mornings workshops. I do them occasionally, but I more frequently invite experts to speak on a variety of topics. So if it's an insurance topic, I'm going to bring in an insurance agent. If it's a retirement topic, I'm going to bring in a retirement expert. And there are so many people across the state and organizations and experts who are available to present to your employees. And we'll talk about how to access those, but no need to reinvent the wheel. Again, I'm happy to share anything that we've developed and provide any assistance to you. But more than anything, don't go it alone. There's lots out there to support you. All right, I'm going to pause here before we talk about our program. Anything, Martha, in the chat?
Nope, it's quiet out there.
All right.
Feel free also just to make comments. If there's something that strikes you that you want us to know, we'll be happy to share that too.
Wonderful. Thanks, Martha. All right, so as I said earlier, FAME, we implemented, this is actually our third year of our employee financial wellness program. And so, as I mentioned, we started and incrementally over time, everything you're seeing here, we didn't have everything from the beginning. We've expanded over time and we continue to expand. But really the whole idea in the beginning is, again, we spend a lot of time in our work at FAME educating Maine students and families on a variety of topics around saving and planning for higher education, and financial wellness, again, being part of that. But I really felt that so often, especially those of us that are sort of the service providers and we're doing the outreach, we don't always focus internally on our own staff. And so I felt like it was really important to provide our own staff with the same level of education and resources that we provide across the state. And so that's really how this came about. Obviously, there's the added benefit that the more knowledgeable and confident that our employees are around their own financial wellness, the better able we are to educate others. And so that was really sort of the nemesis of the program. So what do we do? And I put these in sort of I think the most popular elements first. So I will kind of zero in on what our employees appreciate most. And by and large, hands down, the most popular confidential workplace financial coaching sessions 3 times a year. So we actually hired a financial coach, and I think she's actually on the webinar today. Her name is Allison Bishop, and she has worked with us. This is her 3rd year. She provides individual financial coaching to our employees, and those sessions again, take place during the workday. Right now they're virtual. They used to be in person. They're conducted 3 times a year, and they really provide the employee with an opportunity to sit down privately and kind of lay all their cards on the table. You know, here are my assets and my liabilities. Here are the goals. Here are my challenges. And to really establish a plan with those check-in opportunities throughout the year. And you know, for me and those of us that participate in the program, and I will say we have very high participation rate, about 70% to 80%, depending on the year that you look at, of our employees participate in the program. So high take rates and participation. But I can speak for myself that not only is it wonderful to sit down one-on-one and talk about my own situation, but it's accountability, you know, to have those check-ins with my coach, who is going to sort of be monitoring my progress and where am I at, you know, that's really helpful as well. So providing advice, providing support, strategies, confirming the great progress that we've made. I think that's another key piece, but that's a key component and probably the most valued component of our program. The other thing that we do once a month is we have what we call our Money in the Mornings workshop series. And so this is where we, again, on a variety of topics, each month, we offer a virtual session to employees. And essentially, it's throughout the calendar year, we have 12 different topics. When we were together in person, and I would encourage you to think about this for those of you that are not virtual right now or won't be in the future. We would offer the sessions twice a month, set time every single month. And so basically employees where, you know, coverage, you know, frontline staff and coverage was an issue, we would give them multiple opportunities to participate. And so we would offer the same topic twice within a given month, and employees could pick and choose what they were available for. Now that it's virtual, we record them and we do make them available, but you just want to make sure that you're dealing with sort of availability issues. When we were together in person, this was a breakfast, you know, breakfast and learn, if you will. We would have breakfast in our boardroom. People would come in, and that was a nice draw. You know, you had some breakfast, you learned something. And so that was great. We don't have that same opportunity now, but I think, again, in terms of encouraging employees, if you can feed them, you know, and take advantage of that, you're going to get more participation. Another component of our program, in addition to the Money in the Mornings, is we do partner with iGrad to offer the Enrich digital financial wellness platform. And so this is a digital e-learning platform that employees can use to strengthen their financial knowledge. There are a series of courses that are offered. There is a My Money personality tool, and we use that as well. And so the key component of our program, so our program is incentive based. And so when employees agree to participate in our program, they then are required to participate in all of the financial coaching sessions. So the 3 sessions, they're required to participate. We allow them to bring spouses and partners if that's something they choose to do, but they have to participate in the coaching. They have to participate in at least 3 of the 12 Money in the Mornings workshops. So again, we check attendance and make sure that everybody participates in at least 3, or they can participate in 6 of the Enrich courses, or a combination. If they meet all of those requirements, at the end of the calendar year, they have access to a $250 financial wellness incentive. And so essentially what that allows them to do is they can get that $250 incentive to do there are 2 options. One, they can use it to cover the cost of financial products and services. Perhaps they want to pay for more coaching time. They want to meet with a financial advisor. They want to pay their accountant. Perhaps they want to purchase the Dave Ramsey program. They can use that $250 wellness credit for products or services. Or they can receive it as a matched savings option. So if they make 6 voluntary consecutive contributions via payroll, of at least the $250, they can get that money matched up to $250. So it's either $250 for financial products and services or $250 as a savings match. And again, that has to be, they have to prove that they've made contributions into a savings account through payroll deduction. I don't have any access to that information. It all happens through HR and finance. They, it's all very, in terms of private, and they don't have to share that information with me, but we're able to verify that and they can get that as a savings. Again, with the whole idea that it is going to help them boost their savings, their emergency savings. Some additional features, and these are kind of not the must-haves, but just some added advantages or options. We do have a monthly financial wellness e-news, and this isn't a complicated, fancy. It's literally just an email that we send that includes some tips, some financial, some books that might be worth reading, apps that might be useful, and then reminders of our upcoming sessions. The other thing that we developed, which isn't as valued right now, but we hope it will be again when more of us are in person, we did develop a financial wellness lending library, rather, not an e-library, but a lending library. We purchased all of the popular, books around financial wellness, some of the most popular books, and people can take the books out of the lending library. We have it in the break room. Some other things that we've done, we did a monthly calendar last year. So each month was a new financial wellness tip with apps and tools and resources. Again, we've done raffles and giveaways and that sort of thing. Another component of our program that's brand new, and you'll see that it's mentioned in that incentive piece, and this is really a one-time opportunity. This year, we actually received a financial wellness grant, and there's many agencies partnering, so I want to be sure I name them all. Wells Fargo, the Center for State and Local Government Excellence, the International Public Management Association for Human Resources, and NAST, the National Association of State Treasurers, offered a grant to help organizations develop or expand their employee financial wellness programs. And so we did receive the grant, and essentially that grant is designated, what we applied for and what we received funds to do is to expand our research, to provide an additional incentive to employees, again, a one-time incentive to help support them in securing a will and estate plan. So we're going to be covering the cost of their will, a portion of the cost of their will and estate plan in 2021. And then last but not least, but probably going to be very helpful to you, we will be developing over the summer for a fall launch an employee financial wellness toolkit. So a digital toolkit that will include a lot of the information that you see today in the presentation, best practices, strategies, and information about available resources across the state. And so we're excited to make that available as well. So that's in progress, but that's something that we were able to do as a result of the grant. Was there a question, Martha?
Yeah, we've got actually a comment. We're so lucky to have Allison Bishop with us, and she just wanted to say from her perspective as our financial coach, she's been with us, this is the 3rd year, and so many of the people she's worked with, she has actually met with them 6 or 7 times. And she said she's definitely seen not just an organizational shift in the culture of financial wellness, but a personal shift. So a lot of people may have started to come for the incentive, but they're actually, she's finding over time, they are more engaged with their money and are more focused on things that they want to do with things like their tax refund or the stimulus check. So it's a really great transition that she's seeing personally, not just organizationally.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. And again, those are all private sessions. But a couple of the reflections from Allison have been around, for some employees, it's been life changing, to really be able to focus and set goals and to feel empowered with those strategies that they put forth. It really has been dramatic for a lot of employees. And so I think that coaching piece is really critical. So thank you, Allison, for chiming in. That's great. Is there any other questions, Martha? Okay, wonderful. All right, so free resources and support. As I said earlier, you don't have to go it alone. I am not a big fan of reinventing the wheel. If somebody's done something really fabulous out there, certainly use it and refine it for your purposes. FAME, as part of our employer outreach efforts, we have a number of resources that we have developed and will continue to develop, and I'll talk about on the next slide, our financial check-ins with FAME initiatives. But we also have experts who can speak to your employees on a variety of topics. As I mentioned earlier, our mission to support families around saving, planning, and paying for college. We also have a variety of financial wellness topics that we present on. Student loans is a major focus. I know Martha and many others on the staff are frequently doing sessions specifically around student loan repayment and public service loan forgiveness. So we have expert speakers available on a variety of topics. We also, through our relationship with iGrad, you do have free access to Enrich, and Martha will share the link in the chat there to Enrich, so you can take a look at that. Again, that's just a sort of what I'm going to call the FAME generic platform. You could also purchase Enrich for your employees, and then it would be co-branded and have custom content for your organization. But we did purchase an Enrich platform that anyone can use. One thing I want to let you know on that front is that we do not have access to data. And so unlike our other use of iGrad and other tools that we use, we have the reporting dashboard to see, who's participating. We only have aggregate level data. So if you choose to use Enrich or your employees choose to use Enrich, we won't see their post, pre or post testing scores and that specific information. The other thing I want to mention, and I've touched on this throughout, we certainly are happy to provide technical assistance and any support. We also have a host of free publications, videos, and a lot of wonderful resources on our website that are available to you as well. And everything that we do is free, and we're more than happy to certainly connect you to those resources. Other places that I would encourage you to seek out in terms of developing your program or expanding your program, most retirement plan administrators offer experts and tools and resources who will present to your employees and meet one-on-one with your employees. So that's something I would certainly promote. There are a number of financial advisors throughout the state who will talk with your employees. State agencies. So for example, we've had the Maine Office of Securities and their investor education team. We've had Maine Housing. There are a number of state agencies who will present to your employees and provide resources. Financial institutions are a wonderful resource. We've had a number of financial institutions throughout the state. I see some of them on the call or on the webinar today. So we have many, many financial institutions who will come and present to our employees as well. New Ventures Maine, they are a nonprofit who also provides financial courses. They will come in and speak to your employees as well. They manage the Cash Coalition, so the free tax prep as well. So certainly that is another organization. And then last but not least, on the Maine Jumpstart Coalition website, and Martha can share the link there, we do have a Maine-based financial education services clearinghouse. So this is a snapshot. It is by no means, inclusive of every provider in the state, but it does give you a snapshot of some of the organizations across the state and contact information, of those who do provide financial education services. So for those of you who've joined the webinar, if you're not in the clearinghouse and you want to be added to the clearinghouse, certainly reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to, to get you listed in there. So as I mentioned, as part of FAME's Employer Outreach Initiative, we will be offering a financial check-in with FAME each month. This month, again, was very focused on the employer and really promoting the value of employer financial wellness, and then also letting you know that, the upcoming series. And so the remaining webinars that we have planned are very focused on your employees. And so you'll see the schedule here, and there's I think a great variety of topics. Certainly our March topic around planning, to make higher education more affordable. I think this will be a great webinar, regardless of your employees and kind of where they're at. I think it will be very valuable. In April, we'll be doing Raising Financially Savvy Kids. So I'll be presenting that session. So for those of you, employees who are interested in how do I get my kiddos to pay attention to this information early on, we'll be focusing on that. And then in May, we'll be looking at balancing retirement versus saving for college, an ongoing challenge. I know Martha and I both, with kids in college, but wanting to focus on retirement, that's an ongoing challenge for all of us. And then in June, we are doing student loan repayment. And I think that will be very valuable as well. So we'll be doing the financial check-ins on the first Friday of every month. Those webinars, the webinar that we're doing today, we'll be hosting that every Friday, or the first Friday rather, not every Friday, but the first Friday of every month. We will make the recording available. And then on the second Friday, we will be circulating a series of financial tips. So our financial check-ins with FAME, we will be circulating those, and those will be in line most of the time with the themes of the webinar. And so those tips will be developed. There'll be a printable PDF or an email blast that you can share with your employees. And that's really the hope. We find that with our financial wellness program, those workshops are wonderful. And then those follow-up emails are wonderful because it really sort of provides that nudge, that ongoing nudge to keep going and keep making progress. I think so often we know what we need to do to be financially capable. Knowledge-wise, we know what we're supposed to do, but our behavior and our emotion and all of those other things get in the way, and inertia is a big part of it for me. So those consistent nudges and kind of prompts to, review your finances and pay attention to your finances and rethink your goals and redo your budget, those are really helpful. And so our financial tips are really designed to really help you in that effort. So with that, the last thing I wanted to let you know, I stopped my screen sharing. Oh, let's see. I wanted to show you All right. Can everybody see that okay? All right, wonderful. I'm not sure how I stopped sharing, but I did. So real quickly, in terms of your employees, first of all, you'll find lots of the information that I just mentioned at faymain.com /education, all of those free resources that I mentioned. You can also follow us on all of the various social media channels. You can also encourage, and if you haven't, join our mailing list at faymain.com /employers. We have a mailing list where we will be promoting upcoming webinars and resources. So we encourage you to join our mailing list if you haven't already. And then also my contact information is there. Again, I am more than happy to schedule a time to talk with you further about this. If this presentation is something that you think would be valuable to your, in your workplace as a tool to help make the case, I'm happy to share it. I'm happy to present it, but we do very much appreciate you being here. I'm going to pause again, Martha, and ask if there are any questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now. Thanks everyone for joining.